Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Community Report. I am Dari Idu. With the recent surge in fuel prices following the removal of subsidies in Nigeria, discussions around alternative energy sources have escalated to the forefront of public discourse. The need for cleaner alternatives to traditional petrol-powered vehicles has never been more pronounced, yet the momentum towards embracing green energy appears to be waning. In this episode of the program, we explore the challenges, innovations, and aspirations of advocates and frontliners of initiatives to promote the adoption of electric vehicles and sustainable energy solutions in Nigeria. A typical passenger vehicle emits about 4.6 metric tons of CO2 per year. This assumes the average gasoline vehicle on the road today has a fuel economy of about 22.2 miles per gallon and drives around 11,500 miles per year. Global CO2 emissions from cars and vans grew by roughly 1.2% year-on-year to 3.53 billion metric tons. Despite emissions increasing for the second consecutive year, they have not returned to pre-pandemic levels. The call for a cleaner alternative to petrol-powered vehicles is rife. DJ Akinpelu is the founder of the Rethinking Cities initiatives. He says the acceleration of green energy is stalling.
Adoption of green energy is a far cry from what the policies are set as targets. We should probably by now be talking about 10% reliance on green energy. For instance, the electricity generated. But of course, we all know that we are very much a far cry from that. What we see presently is private sector initiatives here and there, people trying to get into the green energy space, doing what they can to build electronic cars, provide solar energy in different communities in different areas, but we are very much distracted by our ability to produce oil and gas. State governments are pretty much very excited about, power generation, state governments can now do power generation. Whereas from where I stand, state governments and local governments should begin to look at policy and practice towards adaptation of green energy. What are we doing to support those businesses or make every identifiable household to go green by government support? And the fact that private initiatives, social enterprises are very few in that space is quite worrisome. I say social enterprises. The opportunities that we have or we are experiencing in the fintech space is also equally the opportunity that we could have in terms of funding for green energy. But when government policy does not create the necessary enabling environment, we will not be able to see social enterprises come up in that green energy space. So we are a far cry from where we should be because we are strongly distracted. But what we don't even know that in this part of the world, in Africa, Nigeria, the green energy campaign or the green energy practice, we have a lot of abundance and opportunity here in this part of the world that we can tap into. And we need to quickly begin to look into this direction while we pay less attention to grid energy that we have.
Yeah. I know that you would have had this conversation over and over again, but there's a whole lot of, just like we've established, there's a lot of private participation. But how much commitment and in what specific terms do you think government can be involved? And by government, I mean the state and the federal.
Yeah, it's adaptation. So how do we make green energy become adaptable for the people? The challenges centers a whole lot around money, financing, basically. So in terms of financing, when you do your survey, I was reading a survey yesterday. I had a Zoom I was analyzing a survey done by a group. And of course, what people want is they want to adopt green energy, but they want a system whereby they can pay on a monthly basis that lasts over a period of time. So financing is very, very key. Having a structured, I build a structured identity system that enables people to become much identifiable. There's this thing about, for instance, I have a property and my house is identifiable by the government. Because of the identity that I have by the government, I should be able to easily plug into a green energy solution. So, and immediately I go on green energy, I am putting less stress on the national grid. So it's something that we need to begin to financing, identification, giving the necessary rebates and incentives to the people who are in this sector. Backing those social enterprises up in such a way that they attract green funds. Yeah, also the state governments or the country as a whole, because you're not thinking in the direction of green energy, you're also losing the ability to attract green funding. So immediately you put together strategies, policies, projects that you're implementing, there is green energy focus. You can attract a lot of green energy funds from abroad to support whatever you're doing. Although I'm not so much of a big fan of whenever we say international funding, as it were. If we do things right, we have enough local funding that we can use to develop whatever market that we want to develop. But because we're not doing things in the proper way, we are not attracting, we are not creating the necessary environment, we are not attracting the much needed funding that we need in the green energy space.
An electric vehicle is a vehicle that can be powered using an electric motor that draws electricity from a battery and is capable of being charged by an external source. Moshokpe Olosebikon is leading the drive for adoption with a startup focusing on manufacturing and deploying electric vehicles tailored for the local market. Taxi fleets and promotes EV adoption, Moshokpe and his team have started running an experience center in Abuja. We visited the center to see how it works. Good afternoon.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Possible EVS.
All right.
This is like an experience center for electric vehicles in Nigeria. It's a place where we showcase possibilities of electric mobility in Nigeria, even beyond Nigeria to Africa. And the idea for us is we realize that there's a lot of misunderstanding or lack of knowledge when it comes to EVs. And we thought one of the first things we need to do is to set up a place where people can come to. Some people might be seeing electric cars for the first time. Some people can be seeing electric chargers for the first time. And then if you come here, we explain, we just make you understand that this thing is possible, basically.
Yeah, so you're traveling a less traveled path, actually.
Yeah.
And what would you be telling someone like me, a total novice? I don't know anything about electric cars, and I'm walking into this center.
Yeah.
What are those key information that I need?
I mean, it's simple. I mean, globally, the world is gradually shifting to electric mobility. And the question is why, right? More so globally is for climate reasons, which, again, Nigeria, we should also be concerned about. But even drilling it back home is, if you look at the recent removal of fuel subsidy, we've had almost like a 400% increase in cost of mobility. And it creates a new thinking around what are the alternative sources. So of course you have CNG, but electric vehicle represents a cheaper and more accessible example for people to actually use.
In Nigeria right now, there may be a bit of skepticism around, will it work? Am I going to charge it? Am I going to take it to a center every time I need to refill? And all of that. So what information do you have?
Yes, so thanks for that. So again, that's why we built this place, right? Where people can come and then learn about how to go about it, right? And we hope to even have this in other cities, especially in Lagos as well. But to answer your question, we also plan to build charging infrastructure across the country. As a matter of fact, we have started from here. So if you have an electric car here today, you can charge. We even have a 6-month plan for you to come and charge for free, just so that we can move to drive adoption.
Norway is the world's leading electric vehicle user, with 80% of all new cars sold in the nation fully battery powered. Using these vehicles gives citizens access to various tax incentives, such as the exemption of zero-emission vehicles from the registration tax to at least a 50% reduction in road taxes. In Nigeria, the widespread adoption of electric vehicles seems like a distant reality. For its operation to become a Nigerian reality, there must be an elaborate charging infrastructure. Say I've got myself an electric car and I need it charged.
Yeah.
So what's the process?
So it's a simple thing. So you have two options, right? You either have a home charger or you come to a public place like this to use the public charging infrastructure, which we intend to build across the country. And usually most cars come with two charging options. One is the fast charger and one is the slow charger.
Just like our phones.
Just like your phones. But for purpose of this presentation, this is a fast charger. Right, which is faster than what you normally have at home. And then, of course, I'll just show you very quickly. If you come here, we just then we get it into it, and then.
So where's the meter? Am I going to
So it's currently not metered.
Okay.
Right, but of course, by the time we set up for full deployment, it's going to be metered. But right now, this charges in 45 minutes, gives you 350 kilometers of full charge.
That's a lot actually.
Yes, and it can take you. So, for instance, if you're an Uber driver, fleet operator, even though it's a private use car, you can have as much as 350 kilometers, between 40 to 1 hour, depending on.
Nigeria has a capacity of 12,522 megawatts, far from the minimum requirement of 30,000 megawatts it needs to meet the current estimated demand. What are those myths and misconceptions around driving an electric car in a country like Nigeria where electricity is in short supply? I mean, the questions can go from, where am I going to charge it? What if I'm driving and I run out of power? Okay, so for instance, I'm driving an electric car as we speak, and if this car is fully charged, you have more than 300 kilometers. So it's not as if the car is going to stop halfway through the journey. Electric vehicles can reduce fuel costs dramatically because of the high efficiency of the electric drive components. Although energy costs for EVs are generally lower than for similar conventional vehicles, purchase prices may be significantly higher. In cities like Lagos, where an estimated 50% of the 13 million cars on Nigerian roads can be found, an adoption of zero-emission vehicles can be a great idea. How soon can this happen? And especially when it comes to scaling up the numbers, you have more of these cars on the road.
Yeah. So for me, I think once we deploy this, our initial phase of electric buses and then more electric taxis, as people begin to ride and experience the service, I think people's confidence will increase, and then you find that more people will be interested in getting into it, because I'm sure you even enjoy this experience more than it's quieter, it's cleaner, and it's more efficient in terms of cost. I mean, as a group, we've always been pace setters, right? And the question for us is that we need to build things that don't exist in our country, and it's our responsibility to actually build them. And we've taken it upon ourselves. We're like the sacrificial lamb, like I would say. Even with all of the things we've done, I don't think anyone in this country has made as much investment as we have on electric mobility. So we have a lot of faith that it can work. Anyway, it's working everywhere else. We're not the first to try it in the world. Right, so
and I say to people, because Lagos already has a train service that runs on electricity. So
why not?
So why not?
Why not? And then the question around, do you need a generator to actually charge it? No. If you have a fair amount of power, which I think some average Nigerians, most average Nigerians actually do have, and really anyone that can even afford an electric vehicle would have some sort of power, a good amount of time in the house where they are powered. You can charge your cars anyway. It's easy, it's efficient, you don't have to do all the worries gone. All the worries you have with your normal vehicles are over.
Acceleration is what, an acceleration plan is what we need for those businesses. So there should be an incubator. How is government going to incubate these businesses and set them on an acceleration path in the next 10, 15 years? So they are like orphans. They don't have parents. So I think part of what we should be demanding, everybody's demanding, there's no light in my house, there's no light in my house. But why can't we think of off-grid solution and acceleration? Communities, estates, local areas can actually come together and begin to tap into the opportunities that green energy offers. So who is going to set them on an acceleration pathway is the big challenge that we are having. These things are doable, the potentials are there, but now you get a green energy car, electronic car, where are you going to charge it? It's part of the problem. And cost is another big issue. So by the time you look at, how much am I going to get this car for? The car is going to go for a very small little car. Maybe some months ago, a friend brought in a car, it's about 15 million. You understand? A very small car now with the dollar rate is going to go. So in the long run, of course, green energy always pays off. But in the immediate, people cannot see the opportunities because we strongly still live in an economy that people run their lives on a daily basis. They live their lives on a daily basis. You make money daily, you spend it daily, and all of that. People don't have that kind of pool of money that you say, okay, I have a pool of money that I can just put away for the next 5 years or the next 10 years. So finance, infrastructure, regulation is a big issue. And with the current rise in dollar rates, it's getting more compounded. Although with the poor electricity supply in itself, and you now having to resort to using fuel and how much we have to pay. So it's a bit of, it's a challenge here and there. But with the much needed, not to sound rhetorical, with the much needed research and development, we can, from this part of the world, easily finance or find cheaper ways of building what is required for physical green energy materials. But with the right investment and reconcentrating. Like I said, we are just very distracted and we are not paying attention to the things that we need to do. We are trying to take the easy way out. Oil and gas is the big one for us. But with the paying necessary attention to financing, infrastructural development, we are going to go a long way in transitioning into green energy.
Nigeria's network of roads and highways has a total length of about 195,000 kilometers, for which there are over 27,000 registered filling stations. For a widespread adoption of EV, what are the low-hanging fruits?
Imagine all our banks adopting a situation whereby you have bike parking racks. Imagine also you walk into a bank, you can get a charging station. Or the same filling stations actually have charging stations. You see, this is where we can quickly go on a very big scale. When the private sector begins to see the opportunities and begin to embrace it. Owando, for instance, went into an alliance with the Lagos State government to roll out some buses. We don't know how that went. It was piloted, but that was an electronic bus. But as usual, we always have these challenges. We heard of the announcement, but we don't know of the pilot result. But when those corporations begin to support these innovations by these small tech guys and begin to put them on an accelerator, or begin to find a pathway of scaling some of these smaller ideas that are going on the banks have a whole lot that they can play in that role, as you find in Europe. You understand? Electronic bicycles, providing those infrastructures. You understand? So before we even talk about Also electronic cars. Yeah, electronic cars are important. But we also have opportunities in electronic bicycles and making our streets walkable. Those electronic bicycles are extremely fast. And when you provide those infrastructures, so when the private sector begins to look at these solutions, although from where I stand, I'm always very weary when the private sector does not put in. If they will never come from the social enterprise perspective. But what we have pushed for, because of the low-income groups, it is very, very important that you build an inclusive city. So when we talk about green energy and all this discussion, it is very, very important that we begin to look at green energy from the inclusive perspective. You understand? That is why also smaller solutions based on community needs is also something that you have to consider. Take, for instance, the opportunities that lies. There's so much waste generated in poor communities like Makoko. But the ability for us to build infrastructure there, biogas infrastructure there, to help them to convert their waste to energy is very, very important.
With initiatives like Mushokwe's and other individual efforts leading the way, Nigeria is on the path to a cleaner, greener future. But how close is the future? And that's our show for today. Thank you very much for watching. I am Dari Ido. See you next time, and bye for now.